Hi teachers, today I'm going to show you how to use Google Drive, more specifically how to use Google Forms within Google Drive and how to use those forms as a self-grading quiz so that you can save time. You'll have more time to be efficient and productive doing other things than grading quizzes. So if you're on Google's homepage and you click this waffle at the top and then scroll down, you'll see Forms. You can also just probably search Google Forms and you'll come to this page as well. So you'll see in my forms here are the forms that are by me, so other forms that I've created. To start a new one, I like to always start with just a blank quiz. So we'll click blank. All right, the number one thing to do if you're using a Google form for a quiz is to remember to actually make it be a quiz. So we need to click this gear at the top, the settings, and change this to a quiz. So click quizzes and make it a quiz. Now you have some options once you make it a quiz. So you can release grades either immediately or later. So I like to always choose later, especially if I have students in multiple classes throughout my day taking the quiz. I don't want kids in my first class to go tell their friends and now everyone knows the answers. So I release my grades after I've made sure all my students have taken the quiz. You can also decide what you want your students to see. So I like them to be able to see the questions they missed, but I like to turn off them being able to see what answer is correct because I want them to go back and do test corrections later. So now they can see what they missed, but now they need to figure out, okay, why did I miss it and what's the correct answer, and do that for some extra learning experience. Also, I think point values is good to see. So students, I like to be transparent with my students. I want them to know how many points each question is worth while they're taking their quiz. If we scroll back to the top, there's some other options for us. So if we take a look at the presentation tab, you can show the progress bar. So if you want students to be able to see how far along they are in the quiz, you could also shuffle the question order. So if you have students on Chromebooks in class working right next to one another, shuffle their question order. It makes it a little bit harder to cheat. And I'm going to also turn off the show link to submit another response because I want my students to only submit one response to my quiz. So in general here, we're going to limit one response, restrict my users to my school, collect email addresses. I don't want them to be editing after they submit it, and I don't want them to see summary charts. So it looks good here. All right, so back in my quiz, let's rename this quiz to something related to your content area. I teach high school science, so I'm going to name this chemical bonding. So there are some different question types that I'll walk you through here. So first, if we want our quizzes to be self-grading, you'll see on the right here, I clicked this bar that has the different types of questions. Short answer and paragraph are great options, but they're going to require you to go in and grade those yourself. So I'm trying to save myself a little bit of time and be more efficient. I'm going to pick my options, what I can select correct answers for, so that Google Forms will grade the quiz for me. So let's start with a multiple choice style question. If I do, let's say, what happens to electrons in an ionic bond? I'll give my students some options. They can say that electrons are shared. Say electrons transferred. We could say that electrons are both shared and transferred, or let's say nothing happens. What you need to do is decide if you want students to be required to give an answer to every question. I like to make every question required to answer. So they can't submit their quiz until they've answered every question. So down here, you would select required, and then you would click answer key, assign how many points you want this question to be worth. So I'm going to make it 1 point. And then you're going to select the correct answer. So what happens to electrons in an ionic bond? Electrons are transferred. Then I'm going to click back here to edit question again. Oops, that didn't save here. 1 point. There we go. Okay, so edit question. I should see it's worth 1 point. My correct answer is selected that they're transferred and it's required. Now to add another question to my quiz, I'm going to click this plus sign on the side, add question. Right, just to show you some different types of questions, let's take a look at the drop down. So drop down is similar to multiple choice question. We could say like, which of the following is a metal? We're going to say sodium, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen. Again, I want to make this question be required. I'm going to click my answer key, make it worth 1 point, and select sodium is a metal. Go back to my question. We can also add maybe a checkboxes. So we could say which two elements would bond together to make a covalent bond. Let's say, again, we'll pick sodium, oxygen, calcium, and nitrogen. When I go and select my answers now, so it says which two elements, so I need to make sure I'm picking two. So let's say we're going to make this worth 2 points, one for each element chosen correctly. Covalent bonds are between non-metals, so we have oxygen and nitrogen. Sodium and calcium are both metals, so incorrect answers for this question. Okay, so there's lots of different options that you could explore with here in your types of questions. But let's take a look at some different things with your quiz. So you can change the theme. So we could change the color to something different. We can change the font style if we'd like. We also want to make sure up here that this changes to the name of your quiz. We could even choose an image in your header if you'd want. So let's see here. Work in school is good. And this is a chemistry class. So let's pick some beakers and put those up on top for our new theme. So if you want to preview your quiz, here is the preview, the little I. So preview. And we can see what our quiz would look like when we give it to our students. So come back here. And if I want to share my quiz. So there's a couple ways I could do it. I could either use this link and I could give it to them via email or maybe Google Classroom. So I could send them through email. Or I could post this link on Google Classroom. I could embed it somewhere. But since this is a quiz, I'm actually going to use Bitly. So if I use Bitly, here I will click send again. I'll get my link and I will paste this into Bitly. Now I've gotten a new shortened link for this quiz. So here's my shortened link, and you can use a secure web browser for Chromebooks, and then you can make sure that your students are taking the quiz in a secure web browser app and not being able to search the web while taking their quiz. Again, Google Forms is really great to use to help yourself save some time. They're self-grading, which is awesome. So at the end, you'll get all your responses here. It even breaks it down to showing you the most commonly missed question. So it's a great tool to use. I love using Google Forms, and my students have actually given me really positive feedback that they enjoy taking their quizzes in this type of format. I hope you find it as great and as useful as I have.